and get started. Got a good sized group in our webinar today. Welcome everyone. Just as a reminder, we're going to record this webinar today, so it can be viewed after, and we'll post this up on the Oregon Safe Routes to School website. My name is Brian Potwin. I'm with Commute Options, the Executive Director. Today is May 6th, 2021. And our webinar today is Bike Rodeos, Building Skills and Connecting Communities. Before we get started and I hand it off to our wonderful presenters today, I just wanted to let everybody know that we're working on a bike loaner fleet program and using the new curriculum as an outreach tool to schools, also offering train-the-trainer opportunities. Using all this in collaboration, you can do that with Bike Rodeos, and we'll be rolling things out in 2022. Just as a quick a brief update there, I'll be moderating today, and so feel free to add your questions into the chat. We've got time after the presentation to go through all of your questions, so I'll be monitoring that, and then let's go ahead and start it on up. So I'll pass it on over to our wonderful presenters. Thanks for coming.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today. My name is Sarah Mazze. I am the Safe Routes to School Coordinator for Eugene School District 4J. And I'm looking forward to talking bike rodeos with you all. I'm going to pass it to Laughton.
Yeah, hi, I'm Laughton Elliot-DeAngelis, and I'm the current Springfield Safe Routes to School Coordinator. I say current because with a heavy heart, this is actually my last couple of weeks with the program. But bike rodeos and all of our direct programming with students have been some of the most heartwarming and beautiful experiences that we get to have as coordinators. And so really excited to share that enthusiasm with you, and also let you know that the position is still open and we're still looking for the perfect candidate to join the Eugene Springfield team. So if you think that might be you, feel free to reach out to me after the meeting or go on the Springfield Public Schools website to apply for that position. So to start, we'll just talk a little bit about what bike rodeos look like across contexts, because though the term is very commonplace in our field, it looks a little bit different everywhere you go. So in some communities, this will be part of a safety town. Safety Town is usually a partnership with a variety of community organizations in Eugene. It's put on by the Eugene Police Department. In Springfield, it's the Kiwanis group that puts it on. And Safety Town's usually some sort of mixture of pedestrians and tiny cars and with smaller bicycles that students can interact with real infrastructure or modeled infrastructure rather, to learn some safety skills, become aware of each other, start to learn about safety signage and traffic signs. And those are great events, but they're usually a little bit sort of enforcement heavy and aren't necessarily going to have the same kind of zest that we try and pump into the bike rodeos that we host in our region. Another really great opportunity to experience something like this in this region is through the Family Safety Fair, which is put on every year by Safe Kids West, which is an organization that is mostly made up of individuals from the healthcare sector that are interested in preventing youth trauma. So this photo in the lower left corner is actually a picture of a traffic garden that we have set up to support that event, but there's going to be partners at the safety fair kind of across the gamut, everyone from emergency medical services to various businesses and organizations that are interested in youth safety. And then, you have a variety of standalone events. Sometimes cities, government organizations, or school districts might put on a bike rodeo as a way to promote walking and biking, and to connect the community with a variety of organizations. So what we do is a little bit different than all of those. We're more focused on individual schools, and I'll go ahead and one more thing to mention is the culmination of bike safety. So here in the Eugene Springfield area, we're really lucky that we're able to culminate all of our bike safety classes with a long community ride. This is really volunteer intensive. Usually we need anywhere between 4 and 8 volunteers to safely pull this off. So in some schools where maybe the infrastructure just seems too dangerous to host that kind of a ride at the end of the unit, schools will actually have a bike rodeo as sort of a celebration to tie those skills together. And that's another great way to use a bike rodeo, but not what we choose to do here in our area. So I'll go ahead and pass it back to Sarah to talk a little bit more about what we're trying to do.
And I'll just let you all know, Laughton and I, you see now, we're just going to trade back and forth, and we'll both share what we've been doing in our region, because we're really familiar with each other's programs. So you're not going to get 2 different presentations here. So it's really important to identify what you're actually trying to accomplish and what you have capacity for when you're designing your bike rodeo, because different setups will accomplish different goals. And so overall, for both of us, for our whole region, we really want our bike rodeos to be fun. We want kids to walk away from them going, man, bikes are so fun. That was so awesome. We also want to give kids an opportunity to improve their skills, their bike handling skills. And you can see on the picture on the right that this little person here is going through a course, and there's a kid behind her who's about to go around some little obstacles, some little mini cones. And so we'll set up skills training for kids. We also set up opportunities to teach traffic safety. The little sign by the purple cone is a one-way sign, or I think that's a one-way sign probably, but we'll have little stop signs like that, and pedestrian crossing signs. And then as kids are going through, and before they go, we have the opportunity to teach them what to do at a yield sign, at a stop sign, etc., so they can practice those traffic safety skills. We also have bike blenders in our region so that kids get a chance to pedal power their own smoothie, and these kids in the middle are enjoying that. And that's, just part of fostering this wonder around bikes and all that they can achieve. Showing off what bikes can carry. I actually just got, and haven't had a chance to use yet because of COVID, a bike charging station. So kids will be able to light up a light or charge something on a bike. We ended up, the way that I have my program, my bike rodeo set up, it's drawing a cross section of kids from the school who are not necessarily, it's right after school, and kids from the after school program are coming. So they don't necessarily have their own bike. They don't necessarily know how to ride. And we actually found that at the lower income schools in particular, a lot of students didn't know how to ride. And so we shifted towards doing a lot of learn to ride teaching at our bike rodeos. And that was in part thanks to Burley Trailers, Burley Designs. They donated to our whole region Strider bikes, balance bikes in different sizes, so that we can teach kids from, the teeny little siblings all the way through adults actually, to balance and then to learn to pedal. And I'd like to show you this video of the girl on the left who was so excited about pedaling that she wanted me to take a video to send home to her mom. So let's just watch this quick clip.
This is how it goes, Mom.
This is how it goes, Mom. This is how it goes. So we get lots of sweet moments like that. And as we've seen which pieces are successful, we've kind of built those up. Another thing that is really important, especially at Laughton's bike rodeos, which happen in the evenings after school, where more people are coming, families, the whole families are coming in. Often kids are bringing their own bikes. There's social norming happening around kids seeing other kids with wearing a helmet. And maybe they biked to get there. Maybe the whole family biked to get there. And so families who are interested in that have the opportunity to connect with each other. There's the social interaction between families, and there's that opportunity to just get families enthusiastic about biking to school and to other places, families and kids, which is, of course, an overall goal that we're trying to achieve. All right.
So how do we actually implement this? How do we get the buy-in from principals and make these events a success? One thing that is really important in doing this is, there's a lot of different ways that we can do this programming. There's a lot of different activities that we can do. And what we know about our schools, since Sarah and I and our colleagues and our regional team are doing these events at the school level, we know that a lot of times schools are really maxed out, over capacity, and aren't necessarily going to have much resources or attention to make an event like this a success. So I think coming to the table with a really clear idea of what you want to do, thinking about the school itself, the sort of culture around transportation at that school, the infrastructure that's around the school, and using that, the site plan to come to the table with a really clear and safe plan for how you can implement your bike rodeo. A lot of times we'll bring a menu of a few different activities that we could implement, but really trying to keep it simple so that it's really easy for that principal or administrator to say yes and help make this event a possibility. Another thing that we find really important is offering real value to the school. There's so many outside interests that are wanting to bring programming into schools all the time to sort of justify their, to implement their missions. And it's really awesome that there are so many organizations that are doing that. But because of that, it's really important to convey the value of what we're bringing to the table. And so whether that's offering a meal for families, offering really important skills, or even something like at many of our bike rodeos, we'll bring in volunteer bike mechanics or bike mechanics from shops around town and offer bike repair for students and the whole family. Something like that really adds value to the school population and really makes it an easy yes for principals is great. So one thing that we've found is that generally there's very little capacity to offer any sort of staff support on the school's end in terms of having teachers or classified staff join in. So we typically try and have our volunteer pool laid out before we even come to the table, or at least have an idea of where we'll get volunteers rather than trying to ask for additional support. And in that way, just being able to say, hey, we'd like to do this. This is what we're going to do. This is how we'll staff it, so that it's not putting an extra demand on the school. But at the same time, making sure that the connections with staff that you need to have are there. So, pretty much at every event, it's going to be really valuable to make a direct connection with a custodian beforehand. They're typically used to pretty consistent programming. So an event like this might be off their radar. And just because you have a connection with the principal doesn't necessarily mean that information is going to make its way to the custodian. And so in my experience, reaching out, letting them know what to expect and what kind of needs the program will have. Maybe they have some cones that they want to lend out, or helping set up a trash and recycling station, helps to really make things smooth. Additionally, most schools are going to have teachers that are daily bike commuters or like to go on bike rides with their families. And so, making those connections in advance to find out what work has been done at the school previously, or to what extent they might want to be connected as a volunteer is really valuable.
Okay, so we, as Laughton said, we're bringing our own people, but we don't have enough staff people for it to be only staff. We do need to find volunteers, and we've gone about that in a couple of different ways. In my district, just recently, we've been able to really connect with a social riding group, Gears, Greater Eugene Area Riders. And the picture in the middle is some of our Gears volunteers. On the left, you can see one of our student interns. We connected with the University of Oregon and have started an internship program over the last couple of years. And we've had some really great students, mainly from environmental studies and planning, the public policy planning and management department, who have come to us to work, both doing hands-on work like bike rodeos and Kinderlearned Ride, and then also working on discrete projects that are a little more aligned with their academic work. And the picture on the right is an enthusiastic staff person who was not asked to be there, but was welcomed when she wanted to be there, which we, of course, if any staff wants to be there, that's great. I do, when the main ask that I make of a principal when I'm pitching a bike rodeo at their school is, I'd like to use your space for your students, and I'm going to write up a little promotional blurb that you can put in your e-news or your newsletter. And that'd be great if you could share that with families. And in that, I will put a signup.com link or my contact information for people to contact me if they would like to volunteer, because sometimes family members or guardians do want to be there and volunteer, which is great. Laughton has made a strong connection with a different part of the University of Oregon, their bike program, and a lot of the student bike mechanics have come and provided those minor tune-up services that he was talking about before, which is a real value added. I've fostered a connection with the YMCA through their after-school program, which they run in many of my elementary schools. And that's actually, it's shaped a lot of how my bike rodeos are structured, which I'll get to more, but it's been a great partnership. And the nice thing is that they also run a program called BEST, which is an academic enrichment program for students at the highest needs schools, who are the highest needs students, both in terms of their economic situation for their family and their academic need. And so those students in the regular YMCA childcare after school and those BEST students who I was just mentioning, they've been kind of automatic participants at our bike rodeos. And what we are providing essentially a really awesome enrichment activity for those kids. So that's a benefit for the YMCA. And then the YMCA for a long time was actually storing and transporting all of our bike rodeo gear from one of their after school programs to the next as we were doing these bike rodeos. And that was a huge help. And then we ended up doing that transportation, but they continued to provide staffing. So it's nice to have the extra staff support. All right, that's it.
So as we've mentioned, Sarah and I have a little bit of a different strategy in terms of when we're hosting our events, and how we organize and plan our events is going to affect who's involved, and that has a lot of implications in terms of getting the right people to getting the right students to the event. And so when we're thinking about trying to make the event as accessible as possible. You know, it's really important to look at how we're citing the event. You know, if we're having it inside in the fall and spring when it might be rainy, that might be a draw for families that might be a little bit nervous about the rain, but that might shape and change the way that the event feels. And as Sarah mentioned, the time of day is really important too. Because of Sarah's partnership with the YMCA, they're able to have their events right after school, which has its advantages in terms of having, you know, kind of a guaranteed audience and some staff support. That, of course, does limit those students that are already needing to get home by bus, and kind of narrows down the families that will be able to be involved. Those events are still open to the whole school, and, you know, parents that are coming for pickup drop off will often be enticed in by a bicycle blender or you know, some activity that their kiddos are excited to jump in on, and, you know, they can park and join the event. As Sarah mentioned, those schools that have best are really targeting or reaching the most high need students. So that's like a really great way of ensuring that the work is happening equitably, and at least that students that are of the highest needs are getting that support of the bike rodeo and having that opportunity. But it's definitely a give or take. In my program, I'm typically shooting for that 6:30 to 8 p.m. window for families to be able to have kind of an earlier dinner and then come join the event for an hour or so after dinner and enjoy that. The nice aspect of doing it that way is that we end up missing the whole aftercare component, and so we really get the space to ourselves. The parking lots are going to be more clear. There's not going to be that sort of pickup drop off routine and those potential conflict points in the parking lot. And there is kind of this cool energy when, especially at the really big events, when we're, you know, over 100 participants, and we've kind of just got this like, you know, night at the museum feel where you know, we have the place to ourselves, and it's been transformed into this sort of magical bike fairyland, which is really fun. And creating that space is really important for providing an experience that will be memorable for students, and that they'll you know, hopefully will help shape behavior change for them. So you know, in terms of getting folks to the table, picking, you know, citing the event, choosing based on weather, based on the time of year. Light is a big one as well. You know, it's a lot harder for us to have outside evening events in the fall because the days are getting shorter, whereas when we have them in late May, you know, we have sun late into the evening, and so that affects the way that we can host the event. And then, you know, in terms of getting the most people to the table, we need to spread the word as effectively as possible. So, you know, we definitely will send blurbs out through the principals, as Sarah has mentioned. You know, the PTOs often have Facebook pages that are useful channels for getting that information out. During the Walk and Roll Challenge Month, which happens in October and May, we do a big programming push. We're often already having morning announcements that are happening. So that's a great way of reinforcing the awareness of the event. And then oftentimes, you know, with teachers that are really excited and involved supporting the Walk and Roll Challenge, I'll have them kind of follow up with announcements in the classroom as well to remind students to participate. Yeah, and, you know, in terms of is there a perfect time to do it? You know, there's not. Is there a perfect way to do it? There's not. There's going to, however you choose to do it is going to be a barrier for someone. I think the important piece is maybe, you know, recognizing that, trying different things, you know, offering some earlier in the day, offering some later at night, you know, offering a variety of options so that more people can participate over time, and just recognizing that there's no perfect solution, and the best solution is one where you have the most volunteer support and are able to kind of create the most enjoyable environment for the participants, whether that's 20 people or 180 people. You'll know what it looks like when you see it. Events can be really effective or totally a total fiasco. And so just trying to figure that out so that the most people can enjoy it and have an experience is great. And offering some kind of offering beyond just participating in the event, whether that's food. We've offered pizza in the past. Sarah mentioned our bicycle blenders. We always do smoothies. We dialed in this really amazing mango lassi recipe in the last big programming push that kiddos were really excited about on the bicycle blenders. We've offered pizza in the past, and typically we'll do some kind of a raffle. We often have a stockpile of scooters or cool helmets, skateboards, things like that we'll raffle off to give everyone that sort of feeling of excitement that they can associate with the event in moving forward. Pass it back to you, Sarah.
So what does it look like? It can look all sorts of ways, and Laughton mentioned sometimes we're inside, sometimes we're outside. That's really weather contingent. Our ideal is to be outside. That's where we have the most space. One tricky piece, the trickiest piece probably about doing it right after school for me, is that if the weather is bad, or if there's a possibility the weather is going to be bad, which there always is. I shouldn't call it bad. Rain, just rain, which is good these days. I need to find out from the principal and from the PE teacher that they're okay with me using the gym for the last 45 minutes of school to set up. And that can be a pretty hard ask. Some PE teachers are totally fine with committing to being outside for that time with students, because usually they're packed all the way through their day, and some really don't want to do that. So that's a challenge. We want to ask for as little as possible from the school. Lawton's been able to use the parking lot, which you're going to see in a moment how awesome that is. I have not wanted to ask for parents to park elsewhere at pickup, although one day that could be a really cool thing to do. For now, we use the playground space, and that's been fine and great. We're really trying to set up, though, not just a recess kind of opportunity and not just a straight school opportunity. This is playful learning. This is experiential education. So we want kids to be learning the whole time and have it just feel really fun. It is an opportunity to transform their school, though, or maybe just pieces of their school to integrate lots of bikes into these spaces and festivities with bikes. We need to also be really effective with the way that we're using the space, because we do have a lot of some more skilled, some less skilled riders careening around. And we both set up spaces that are like the blow off steam, go fast spaces. I will use typically a track if there is one, or even just a grassy area, and just send the kids who want to cruise out to there. And Lawton's got a certain part of the parking lot that he'll use for that. We have a certain space, which is more the traffic skills piece that you've seen in pictures and we've talked about. And then I'll usually also have a learn to ride space, because those kids, I don't want them to have to think about looking around and avoiding other people. I want them just to focus on all that their brain and body are doing to figure out how to ride a bike. And then we'll have our bike blender station, and there could be other stations as well. And those we usually want to have away from the bikes so that there's not a risk of people we want to avoid crashes. That would really ruin a bike rodeo, to have people getting crashed into. So those are, we're going to show you now Lawton's way that he uses the space.
So real quick before we get started, I'll just give you a little context. I've got a short video here that's kind of just a compilation of shots from a bicycle rodeo that we had at one of our schools in Springfield, Yolanda Elementary. And so this is kind of a mixture of some footage from the ground, and also we had some drone photography happening at the same time to kind of link it all together and capture the experience. So in the upper left-hand corner, you can see there's kind of a big congregating point for a bunch of parents and kiddos that want to visit with their parents and get out of the fray. That's kind of the general area where we have our tabling. And then in the middle, you can see there's kind of some structured activities with our sandwich boards. There's sort of a small cluster in the middle upper left, which is where we have our bicycle blender, and also some hopscotch, a giant crazy hopscotch course for kiddos that want to get off of the bikes. And then we kind of have a large loop that goes around for students to just enjoy biking and blow off some steam. So I'm probably just going to play about a minute of this video if it cooperates, but I just wanted to set the stage. It's pretty well attended. I think there was over 150 kiddos and parents that attended this event, and it was kind of one of our late May events. So.
Un swing sabroso, y sobre todo por ese ambiente tan popular. Es que Barranquilla siempre está de fiesta, siempre está de rumba. Barranquilla siempre tiene un buen motivo para festejar. Tremendo swing, Barranquilla tiene un swing, pero tremendo swing, que empieza la rumba y no tiene fin. Barranquilla tiene un no sé qué, a bailar la cumbia, puya y mapalé. Sus mujeres en descaderado se ven tan divinas, moviendo la cola al compás de una cumbia que fascina. Es que Barranquilla es una ciudad tan maravillosa, que todo el mundo quiere gozar aquí en la Arenosa. Oye que sí, Barranquilla tiene un swing, por eso yo me quedo en Barranquilla.
So I think we'll go ahead and pause it there, but I hope that gives you a little bit better idea of what this event can look like in real time. You can see with this layout, it's really nice that we have a lot of space, because even though there's a lot of moving pieces, there's enough room for students to be students. You know, I think if you work in a small confined space, you're going to find yourself just tearing your hair out trying to turn kiddos into perfectly organized, waiting for activities, doing all of the activities in order, and students don't really have a good time doing that. Creating a space that's safe for them to be little weirdos and express themselves and have fun, and at the same time have this great social norming, you know, to see a bunch of other kiddos wearing helmets and having that be okay, and you know, maybe not cool, but like smart, you know, and to see other students choosing to do activities instead of blasting through them, you know, helping them kind of just get a better idea of how to use space, how to share space on a bike, and how to have a lot of fun doing it. So pass it back to you, Sarah.
Yeah, so I think even though I think I need to start with this cool contraption here. So equipment, what you bring and how you're going to get it to the bike rodeo is kind of a logistical feat. And especially so in this case, this is Laughton's transportation system for his bike rodeos. We had the funds to buy electric cargo bikes in our region, in each of our districts, for our coordinators. And Laughton also got himself a trailer or got the program a trailer. And so you can see here bikes for kids who don't bring their own, and some helmets, I assume, are tucked in there, cones, and other, cut in half tennis balls are great for setting up little obstacle courses, and there are little mini cones. Laughton designed these really nice activity sandwich boards that lay out like a little map for which you then mirror on the ground with cones or tennis balls. And then kids follow the directions on the sandwich board to go through that little mini course. If you're you want to bring some bike mechanic tools regardless, but maybe more so if there are going to be people actually working on bikes as an activity. And then the bike blender. So that's all in there. I tend to bring a lot of bikes because doing this after school, there are some kids who come with, they'll bike to school that day, or their guardians come to pick them up and they bring bikes, but the kids in the after school program don't tend to have their own bikes. And so I borrow a van from the facilities department in the school district that I work for Jay, and I pack that whole thing with 20 bikes, all different sizes, and a variety of pedal and no pedal bikes, and as along with all this other stuff. So that is having the gear in a place to store it is key, and a way to move it. So move on.
So if you are, we hope, a person who is thrilled and excited now to go and implement something like this in your own community, there's a few resources out there available to kind of help get you started. The National Safe Routes to School Partnership has a really great little kind of one-pager toolkit checklist to give you some pointers on how to get started. We had some interns in Springfield work on a bike rodeo toolkit that includes some activities and some, basic budgets for your bicycle blender and things like that, which we would be more than happy to share if folks are interested in seeing that. But also don't be afraid to just bring what you love about biking and what you remember loving about biking as a child into a space, and just creating some intentional space at a school and making it totally your own thing. I think following the blueprints of a toolkit or a checklist can be useful in making sure that you've thought about all of the important things to think about. But really just bringing your own excitement and enthusiasm about biking into the space is what will make it feel really authentic and make it a really awesome experience for everyone, your volunteers, the kiddos, teachers that decide to join in the mix.
So we both have run a lot of bike rodeos in the last couple of years and really amped up the bike rodeos in our programs and in our districts, but we still are really interested in reaching more students, making sure that we're serving the highest need schools and the highest need students at all of our schools. This is a goal with all of our programming, including our bike rodeos and all of our resources for our program. We want to direct those towards historically and currently underserved communities. And there's always opportunity for expanding the options that for what activities kids can do at a bike rodeo, especially as we return to schools year after year. We want it to stay fresh and fun for kids. And then a challenge in our region that we have our eye on is creating more for middle school students. We bring our bike rodeos to elementary schools, and we have our bike safety classes in middle schools, except for in the Eugene Bethel School District where it's in 5th grade. But we really would like to dig deeper into middle school programming and high school programming and figure out ways to reach those students. Especially, middle school is when they really are independent enough to be riding on their own generally. And it's kind of, could be this turning point where they begin riding to school in other places and love it and it becomes part of their life, or miss out on it. So we want to reach those middle schoolers.
So yeah, at this point, we are happy to take any questions that you may have. We hope you learned something that has you excited about the prospect of implementing something similar to what we do here in the Eugene Springfield area, and that inspires you to try and find the kind of joy that this small child with a smoothie cup has found through bike rodeos. So yeah, at this point, we'll turn it over to Brian to start facilitating the questions.
Great, thank you. That was an excellent presentation. So just received one question throughout the presentation, which was, Laughton, please share the YouTube link for that video because it was so cool. And I want to invite everyone, if you'd like to ask a question, go ahead and unmute yourself and we can just do popcorn style around the room per se. We'll take a couple minutes to do that.
And I'll just point out that my contact information is here. Laughton's name is there, but we're not sharing his Springfield contact information because he'll be done on Tuesday, sadly, and joyfully for his future. So anyhow, I'm happy to chat with people beyond this webinar if questions come up. And our website is down at the bottom. We have a regional website, and that Springfield Bike Rodeo Toolkit is up on the website under, I believe it's on our resources page.
Mary Jo has a question. Go ahead, Mary Jo. You want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. I was at the presentation last week at the Oats and didn't have enough time to ask this question about teaching bikes. It's not exactly about the rodeo, but what have people done to fit helmets with a lot of hair or African American hair? How do we do that as we look into serving our Black youth?
We've realized, like, wait a second, we don't have any extra large helmets at a point. Like, how have we gotten to this point where we weren't having the right helmets? But now that we bought a bunch of extra large helmets for all of our middle school bike safety fleets and for our bike rodeos, I haven't had a problem since then. So that, yeah, extra large fits.
So it's ordering extra large.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I didn't know if you were saying ordering additional larges or
no,
ordering
size
extra large.
Yeah, size extra large.
And we often have found, at least with the brand of extra large helmets that we have been purchasing for our bike fleets, that a lot of those extra larges actually adjust pretty well through a lot of sizes. So, you know, getting a small helmet, the number of heads, the range of heads that you're going to be able to use that on is quite less significant than an extra large or a large that really has a much wider range because of that ratcheting function on the back of the helmet. So adding those to the mix has only helped.
And most of our helmets are from Helmets R Us, which is a great resource for low-cost helmets, if you aren't aware of it.
Okay, I've got another question here. Says, I'm wondering if Laughton would be willing to share some examples of the sandwich boards he created.
Certainly, yeah. We can provide a link to just the file. I'm pretty sure that it's in our regional drive. I can look for that. And we could do an email follow-up to everyone who's attended and maybe have that saved with wherever this recording is going to go. But yeah, they're all pretty simple graphics that just have different arrangements of cones to allow for students to do start-stop exercises, maneuverability exercises like slalom, work on their left turns and right turns. So pretty simple. We try and keep them just all visual, no written instructions, because we do have a range of ages and we don't want words to be a barrier. And so we just put them on visually with arrows and orange dots to represent cones. And then, you know, if a kid's puzzled, we'll just kind of help them get oriented with it, but it seems to read fairly well.
I'm sharing them now, actually. I've just
Awesome.
pulled them up. I will say that it's been interesting using these with students. It's taught me about the spatial skills of different age kids. Really little kids don't seem to be able to generally convert this into what's in front of them on the ground. Older kids can, and it's a really cool opportunity to teach them a little bit about map reading, really, because this is essentially a map. You know, it's telling them on the ground, you're going to see these tennis balls and you're going to follow this map here. So for little, I don't know, when I say little, what am I, it's been so long since we've been able to use these in person with kids, but I'm thinking like 5 and under. I generally will ask a parent to go through with them, maybe 4. Yeah, I can't quite remember the exact age, but I'll ask a parent to go through with younger kids to explain it to them. And older kids, I'll explain it to them at the start and then set them loose. So yeah, they're pretty awesome. And these I've often just set up in a field that's just to create a different activity area.
Excellent. We have another question. Have you had to navigate any school or other teams' liability concerns about partnering with student bike mechanics?
You know, we haven't. It hasn't been an issue thus far. That being said, we haven't run it all the way through the furthest reaches of the school district legal team. But we also pretty much let those mechanics be more of, they're doing very basic repairs like pumping up tires, maybe a flat fix, maybe a brake tightening, but more being diagnosticians for families that bring bikes in to say, this hub is loose, you're going to want to take this to a professional bike mechanic, you're missing this part, and just directing them to resources because they only have limited tools with them anyways. And so yeah, we haven't had that issue come up, but I'm sure like anything, if you were to bring it directly to your legal team, they might have some concerns. And that is definitely something that we have to deal with in all areas of this risk management type programming.
Are there any other questions? Oh, got one more here. Have you compensated bike mechanics for their time, or is it just usually volunteers?
I'll just share. In the first few bike rodeos that I held after school, I had some professional bike mechanics, some bike shops come in, and they did it voluntarily as a donation and an opportunity for publicity. The particular one that was working with me is in a smaller, newish bike shop. Less known, that's a better way to put it. Smaller, lesser known bike shop. And so it was a good potentially a good opportunity for them to get the word out. But like I said, a lot of people are not coming with their own bikes, they're using our bikes. And so after a while, it became really clear to me and to him that it wasn't really worth the time for an after school event. For a weekend, I did some weekend events, and that's great for a bike mechanic to come, and he was happy to do that as a volunteer or as a donation. But I also do think that in some cases it would be totally worthwhile to pay a bike mechanic. And I did offer, I think it's if you're, yeah, if you have the funds to do that, and there are going to be a lot of people with their bikes, I think it's a great thing to offer.
All right, thank you. Any other last questions before we wrap up for today? I'm getting a lot of thank you notes to Sarah and Laughton for this excellent presentation. So I think with that, we'll wrap up. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And like we said at the beginning of this webinar, once we have this available, we'll let everybody know. It's going to be up on the resources page on the Oregon Safe Routes to School website under webinars for you to go back and view again if you want to check out any of the details that were discussed. Thank you all for joining. Special thanks to Sarah and Laughton for putting on a great presentation. We'll have more of these webinars in the future, and we'll let all of you know via social media and also our newsletter and the website. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. It was our pleasure.